Alright guys, it's me, the Muriatist, and I'm here to answer more stupid anti-evolution questions. Also, still found on contenderministries.org. Link to that website will be in the description this time. I did forget it last time. Sorry about that. So, picking up where I left off at question number 5, I'm starting at number 6. When, where, and why, and how did life come from dead matter? When? About 3 billion years ago, I believe. It was about 4.5 billion years old, if I'm getting my numbers right, and, well, that's about it, 3 billion years. Where? Primordial ooze. That's where. Basically, we don't know. We don't know. Why? There's no why. That's not even a valid question. The why, I guess, is because that's the way molecules bumped into each other. That's the way elements reacted with each other. That's just how it happened, I guess. How? We don't know. Honestly, this is the stumper. This is a good one. Scientists do not know where life came from. We don't know. That's it. That's effectively it here. We can pretty much say it's not a god. And another interesting tidbit is this actually doesn't have anything to do with evolution, since evolution does not deal with abiogenesis of any sort, and instead only focuses on how species adapt and speciate over time. This is irrelevant to evolution, basically. When, where, how, and why did life learn to reproduce? This one's just stupid. You don't learn to reproduce. That's part of the definition of being a living organism, is something that has, I believe the actual definition is anything that can self-replicate or like pass on, reproduce in some way, has a drive to do so, and has a drive to stay alive, is effectively alive. So when? Same time, the first life form, the first organic thing, that is the exact second where life learned to reproduce. Where? Primordial ooze. Why did life learn to reproduce? Because that's the definition of life. Like that's what living things do. It reproduces to pass on its genes. It's just what it does. How did life learn to reproduce? By being alive. It's not that complicated. Number 8, because that was number 6 and number 7. Number 8, with what did the first cell capable of sexual reproduction reproduce with? That's actually a good one. However, I mean, if it was only capable of sexual reproduction, it'd be screwed. But there are cells out there, and actual multicellular organisms. There's a species of fish and a species of insect, I believe it's an aphid, who can reproduce sexually and asexually. So just depending on the needs of the environment, I mean, this cell had the ability to reproduce sexually, but just reproduced asexually, and then those two cells could have produced sexually. Like, you know, see, it just splits off more and more until eventually it just happens, guys. It just does. Like, the first cell capable of sexual reproduction produced asexually because it was probably also capable of the two. And then over time, over the adaptation of the being capable of sexual reproduction, and that allowing more genetic code, more variables, more code, basically. It's more stuff, so more potential to be adapt, to be immune to disease, just things like that. Sexual reproduction just won out. That's just how it worked. Doesn't reproducing decrease chances of survival? It's question number 9. And so doesn't reproducing decrease chances of survival, and is it the individual or the species that has the survival drive? Both, and no. Reproducing does not decrease chances of survival. You see, they're on the website. You can read the whole thing. It'll be in the description. Is that it increases the number of mouths to feed. Well, morbidly, cannibalism is a thing, first of all, and a lot of animals probably practiced it at this stage in their evolution, just because there wasn't that much to eat at that point. That's not my only answer. I'm getting to this. And again, it's not, the individual has drive, but it's also the gene. I believe in this work, The Selfish Gene by Richard Dawkins, I believe he spells out how the genes want to reproduce to pass themselves along. It's not really an individual survival. Although that is a thing, but we survive to pass on our genes. The species is just a line of the gene that have been transferred, like a family tree of the gene. So both. The species has to survive, and the individual has the will to survive. But I believe in most species, especially things like insects and such, the individual will sacrifice itself for the good of a group, such as a colony. Any individual ant, excluding the queen, effectively, is basically completely fanatical and really unthinking, and is willing to just kill itself, sacrifice itself for the good of the colony, and for a larger thing, the species. Okay, this is my favorite one right here, number 10. Use the NMW example to show how mutations create new data. The question here is, how does mutation create new data? I'm going to use the NMW example because it's pretty damn solid. Imagine you had a gene, and all this gene does is create the letter N. N. So all it does is the letter N. That's it. Now imagine that you reproduced, asexually or sexually, doesn't matter. The gene was copied, because that's how reproduction works, but a mutation happened and caused it to make two N's really close together. And you have an M. An M now. Alright? Instead of an N, you have an M now. That's 2 from when you had 1. That's double your data. And now imagine another mutation. You're trying reproducing it, and solar radiation messed you up, and you have a W now. It flipped the M gene upside down. So now you have 3 genes where you had 1. You had an N, an M, and a W, but previously you only had an N. You tripled your amount of information through 2 mutations, and that is exactly how mutations can create new data from existing data. Alright guys, that's my 5 questions for this part. The next part will be out shortly. If you like this, please like the video, favorite it if you really want to. If you want to see the rest of the series or other series I have planned in the future, please feel to subscribe. Alright, thank you. Au Captain, my Captain. Au revoir.